Sports Professor Rick Horrow inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports. You're on the record. Very interesting post-Super Bowl occurrences. We have NBA, we have NHL, we have Daytona 500. All interesting storylines in their own right. We'll get to them in the opening bell and the five to watch. But youth football basically dominates the headlines because football does. It always does in the context of where do we go from here after an incredibly successful Super Bowl, notwithstanding the score, and also a change in leadership in youth football. Steve Strawbridge, who was the director of merchandising for the Eagles and then the chief administrative officer of the Hall of Fame, was tapped to be the only fourth head of Pop Warner in a 33-year succession after Jon Butler ably ran the organization for a significant period of time. Its inception, 1929. It's kind of like Band-Aids and Kleenex. When you think youth football, you think Pop Warner. But you also think cheer, and you think some of the interesting dimensions that are going on now, all of the controversies navigated ably by Jon and now Steve. Very significant interview talking about the future of youth sports, football, safety, Olympics, flag, and the like. Here is the new head of Pop Warner, Steve Strawbridge. Sports Professor Rick Horrow inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports. Iconic interviews all the time. This is one that is clearly the future of football. Flag, cheer, women's, Olympic, not to mention the future of every aspiring NFL player who wants to play Pop Warner. Steve Strawbridge, the new CEO, president of Pop Warner, only the fourth in its history, founded in 1929. It's been in good hands from Jon Butler and beforehand. Steve, should we call it the CEO of the Glenn Scooby Warner organization, or is Pop still the name of choice?
I think we'll stick with the Pop, but that's a good that's a good one, Eric.
I don't think, Steve, anybody really, when you think of a trivia contest, knows the real name of Pop Warner. It doesn't matter. It's one of the most, I think, iconic brands in football. And part of it is longevity. Part of it is consistency. What do you attribute the brand success of Pop Warner to?
Well, first of all, you hit it. I've been here, just over a month. And what I knew, obviously, working in football all my life, what Pop Warner was, who Pop Warner, what they did. But I never realized how unbelievably powerful the brand is. I have a, very strong connection and history with the NFL. And it is just unbelievably big. And it's something that we're looking forward to grow even further. But that Pop Warner brand, you can't buy a brand. You can't buy that, and it's worth everything. And we will try hard. And Jon, for 33 years ahead of me, protected the brand, grew the brand, and we plan to take it to the next level.
Full disclosure, I've been on the board, and I will dive in front of a car for Pop Warner. And so what it does, what the standards are, and I know you're carrying on Jon's hallowed tradition. It is amazing that the brand of Pop Warner is run out of storefront's the wrong word, but it's run out of a very small office in Langhorne, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty incredible, and for me, very lucky growing up outside the Philadelphia area. And I honestly didn't know the national headquarters were in Langhorne. And so it worked out perfectly. And it is, you're right. It's a small, but very dedicated staff with thousands of volunteers throughout the country.
Well, given your new appointment, let's just talk about your background for a minute, because Pop Warner could not have been in better hands. Director of merchandising for that team called the Eagles. You think they're going to have some potential long-term? When are they going to get good?
Oh man, I was lucky enough to work with the Eagles, focused mainly on merchandising, marketing, and player relations. I was there for 12 years, and we got to 4 NFC championships and 1 Super Bowl in 2004. And the ride there was incredible. And I've been lucky enough from there going over to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I was a COO for 16 years. And during that period, we'd always take sponsors and partners and do a lot of business at the Super Bowl. So I got to see them win one and lose one there. And then this week down at the Super Bowl with Pop Warner, representing the brand. I did get to become a fan for a number of hours, and even though I'm good friends with Andy Reid, we owed him one, and it was quite a weekend.
Yeah, Andy Reid is one of those people history will reflect, will transcend the sport, not only because when you leave a coaching assignment and everybody still loves you, it tells you something. And, he built the house and then built the house in another location. So Benson Stadium, the Ohio High School Championships, and obviously the Hall of Fame game and keeping that place year round, making David Baker look good. I guess we could say it that way. But your relationship with the Hall of Fame has been evolving. The Hall of Fame itself has been an incredible organization. In my mind, it morphed from a house for hallowed players to a multi-purpose entertainment organization, I think.
Yeah, I think, and I give David all the credit in the world. As been David Baker, just one of my personal mentor, and I learned so much from him there, and his mind and the Hall of Fame, where we took it from, yeah, a fairly small organization to a national brand. And again, it's where I learned a lot about the brand, about being a nonprofit, working with the NFL, and we just took things to the next level. And it was an incredible experience. Again, very similar to Pop Warner with a lot of the goals, and a lot of, volunteers are a massive part of the
Yeah.
production, and people that just love football and want to grow football. And that's something to be really fun to be a part of.
Well, the other piece of this, which is also very important, is that you fight for every penny. And I think part of the issue is like with the Hall of Fame, uh, everybody understands volunteers with a capital V are absolutely critical with all of this. You started weeks ago, and you obviously know a little bit about the organization before that. What did you see as your greatest challenge coming in day one?
I think, the challenge is, everybody uses the term, the challenge is the opportunity, but where I think the challenge is taking advantage of all Pop Warner has. Quite honestly, we were a little behind the ball in flag football. That is exploding. And we've already had a number of conversations on way to grow that. We've added that to our Super Bowl championship this year, in December in Charlotte. For the first time, there'll be a flag football Pop Warner Championship as well, but also continuing to grow the database, grow cheerleading, grow tackle football, grow flag football. That, in one way or another, people always come out and try to attack some of the sports, and we're here to grow, to make the best for the kids, to provide education to the kids, provide grants. And so, again, I think it's growing that membership and growing the game of football, which, at the top level is exploding. But there's a lot of competition, with other sports. So we're here to sit here and grow it. And as everybody knows, flag football has just exploded, and we are very rapidly going to become a major player in flag football.
We'll get into safety and little scholars and a whole bunch of other stuff, which everybody wants to talk about. But you focus on data gathering, and let's talk about that for a minute. You all are inspirational when it's like remembering your first date, I think, probably, or your high school English teacher. When anybody mentions Pop Warner, it's an automatic sell. They remember where they were, they remember their first game, they remember when their parents took them. The database, do we know the number of alumni now? Do you know? I remember using a number, but it's got to come from you.
Yeah, I mean, the number that I've seen, and that we have to, is in the 73, 74% of professional players played Pop Warner. Again, that number I think is probably it's probably higher than that. But that's what we have. If you saw the honors show, Josh Allen, won MVP for the year, he credited beginning of Pop Warner, and that's just something that we see everywhere, and that I'm really digging into with my connections at the Hall of Fame, to really continue to, again, show those leaders, show what it's about, and where it begins here at Pop Warner.
And also, what about the overall people who played Pop Warner, the total number who are not professional athletes? Do we have any idea what that number is?
The exact number, I'm not sure what that number is at this point. I think that, obviously quite a few people, like you said, everyone you run into, has played Pop Warner.
Yeah, millions and millions. I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm just talking
Yes.
about how prolific that organization really is. And the other little secret is it's not male only. Talk a little bit about the cheer program.
Yeah, the program is incredibly important to us. As much as, me being a football guy, it's probably what I've learned the most since I've been here, and just how successful and how big. And the same thing with our brand. In cheer, the Pop Warner brand is unbelievable. We have, over 6,000 cheer teams that play or that cheer throughout the year. And it's just a really, really important part of overall Pop Warner is cheer. And talking about another thing on flag football, girls flag football, fastest growing of any of the sports. So, we are really, tackling all the different areas for boys and girls.
Tackling is an interesting metaphor because part of the conversation that frankly dominated the lawyers and the liability issues has been the lawsuits, the concussions, the negligence, all of that. We know for a fact that under the Butler administration, and I'm sure yours, the emphasis on safety is paramount. And the water breaks, the temperature prohibitions above a certain number, all of those issues are critically important to put top down, especially with the outlying leagues that may not care as much, but you make them care.
Yeah, I mean, safety is obviously number one. That is what we preach every day. Again, in cheerleading, in flag football, and tackle football. The good news now is we have so much data. So much data is driven, down from, like you said, the top leagues at the NFL, all the way down, to the youth leagues. We take those. We have an incredible medical board, which gives us advice throughout the year. And it's really incredibly important. It's something that we stress on every meeting we have as we bring teams into Pop Warner.
So let's talk a little bit about the NFL and their support. They have USA Football, they have their own folks. Roman Oben and Troy Vincent are friends, and obviously, when you ask, they are tremendous supporters of Pop Warner. They also not mix loyalties, but they also have to kind of focus on youth football and sports with entities that are not Pop Warner or otherwise. How do you reconcile and develop consensus going forward?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, Troy and Roman are just fantastic, and Peter O'Reilly,
Yeah.
and from the commissioner down, their mantra is to grow the game of tackle football. And by doing that, there's studies that are out there now on showing how flag directly impacts, people go through flag. It's the percentage is very high. They're getting the final numbers on that of people that go from flag to tackle football. But yeah, USA Football. Our other people are out there, Scott Hallenbeck, the president of USA Football. We just met for an hour and a half down at the Super Bowl. We're working together. We do certification of the coaches with them. So we're all on one team. And that's the way I look at it. Yes, everybody's fighting for their numbers and everything. But yeah, if we grow the game of football, we're all going to win. And that's how I look at it.
So resources, corporate sponsorships, dollars, obviously that is a incredible priority of your position. Why wouldn't it be? But what is it? Is it going to be easier? Is it going to be a light at the end of the tunnel relative to the Olympics and flag football and what the NFL sees as international, but also the expansion of youth? Chart the future course.
Yeah, I think that, obviously for us, sponsorship and marketing and social media is an area that we're putting resources into. It's something that I believe strongly in, and that we're going to really bump up here. So by doing that, and like you said, going right through the Olympics with flag football, it's only going to get bigger. And again, in boys and girls, we need to be out at the forefront because these kids that are playing flag football right now, these young kids are very possibly going to be on the 28 team and certainly, 32 teams, boys and girls. And then in tackle football, again, with everything, kind of hitting that, we're back on the rise in tackle football, youth sports in general, again, there's so many options, but we want to be out there in the forefront and make it available to everyone who wants to play, make it fair, make it, safe for everybody. So those are things. And again, in cheerleading and dance, it's so important for us to have that, structure of a team and being together and working towards a single goal.
Yeah, on the women's side, just for a couple more minutes on this one, Caitlin Clark is not single-handedly, but a significant responsibility of adding a few zeros to the pot of women's sports, and it trickles down as well. Is it something that you are finding as a little easier, a little more energized to raise money for the cheer side of your world?
Yeah, I think that, what we're seeing is, like you said, Caitlin Clark, if you saw the Super Bowl, I know you're there, but if you the commercial they played,
Yeah,
the flag
yeah.
football girls was spectacular. And I think what makes it a little easier is that everyone wants a part of it. It's young enough, it's new enough that everyone wants to find their way in. And again, what we focus on and we will continue to focus on is doing it the right way and making sure that the kids, have the best experience and move through the system and, continue to play.
Charlotte is your crowning championship. It was Orlando. Uh, Reflect back on the move. Does it look like it's the right decision for you guys?
Yeah, it's, obviously change after 30 years is something that people, are going to have an opinion on. But, it's something we're going to be there for the next 2 years. And one thing is the facilities are spectacular. The city of Charlotte's been spectacular. And it gives us a chance to kind of relook at everything and re-see what it's like. Sometimes, not that it gets stale, but, you want to try new things. And so we're trying it out. The reaction, of course, the people down in Florida were, they were had it in their backyard, so they wanted to, they were like, hey, well, we got to travel now. Well, everybody else said, well, now it's fair, So I think Charlotte's going to be great. They've been over backwards for us, and we have seen incredible excitement about the move. Quite honestly, more than we expected because we knew again people were used to Florida 30 years. But we're going to see Charlotte for the next couple of years, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah, I'm not starting the pod. I'll just be factual based on my 20 years working with Roger and Paul at the NFL. Everybody talks about how important stadiums are. When something doesn't get done, the economics change, the team goes somewhere else. Man, that city will pay twice as much to get it back. Just saying, just saying,
Yeah.
right? So it's like we're all looking, and you never say never. And your comment about 2 years is very astute and very appropriate. So, what's your greatest challenge looking ahead?
Yeah, I think it's for me personally, it's the business. I love the business. It's
Yeah.
it's great. I'm looking forward to it, and the team here is so great that it's going to allow me to go out and just spread the word. And I kind of go back to the Hall of Fame and everything I learned from David Baker. We had this brand that quite honestly, Pop Warner is just it's out there, but it's not been taken advantage of. And when I say that, I mean for partners, for people looking, for kids playing. So we want to get out there and we want to spread the word of Pop Warner, and it's a place to be. And that's going to be a lot of travel. I'm going to each of the regions over the next 8 weeks. Going to talk to all the leagues, and really, really get in there and learn. So it's something for me that's been nice. Like I said, I can do the sponsorship, I can do the all that in the back of my head, but I want to go out there and learn the business and be able to bring it back and make a change and make a difference for these kids.
So 5 years from now, I know this is a hard question. I'm going to do it anyway because look, you've had what 6 weeks on the job. What
Right.
have you done for me lately? So 5 years from now, you look back. What does Pop Warner as an entity look like?
I think we're gonna, just grow the game, grow the game, and that'll be seen in many ways, not just, through raising, the amount of kids, but we want to have as many kids playing Pop Warner. And I think when you look back in 5 years, I'm hoping we sit here and say that we've taken a flag football program that was, very small to the number one program in the country, and maybe quite honestly, taking it international. And then on the tackle side, developing these kids and developing, like we had talked earlier, the safest way, the best coaches for them to learn the game and develop into the college and pro level. And on the cheerleader side, the same thing. Take these programs, take these girls, develop them, and grow that program so we can make a difference and make a real difference with the scholarships and everything that we do here at Pop Warner. And to look back and see this program really booming on all cylinders, that's my goal.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Strawbridge will be at the helm. I will guarantee it in 2029 when Pop Warner celebrates its 100th anniversary with wall to wall television coverage X number of countries internationally, everybody wanting to play either flag or tackle or men's or women's or cheer a year after a very successful LA Olympics. And I will add that the ground that was laid by Jon Butler is fertilized and is more ripe than ever for an incredible world moving forward. Steve Strawbridge, thank you for giving me your time.
Thanks, Rick. It was great.
Appreciate it. Rick Horrow, sports professor. Look for Pop Warner to survive, thrive, and grow. $1.3 trillion business of sports. Speak with you soon. Steve Strawbridge and his number two, Tim Glaze. The organization is in great hands moving forward. We'll follow that story as we continue to focus on life after Super Bowl, sports safety, and the like. Let's look at the opening drive, the top 5 stories of the last couple of weeks. Probably number one, certainly for me, is the NHL's amazing Four Nations face-off and the huge television ratings that followed. The game broadcast Saturday night between the U.S. and Canada averaged about 4.4 million viewers in the U.S., peaking at 5.2 million, according to ESPN. It's the most viewed non-Stanley Cup final for a hockey broadcast since 2019. 2024's final game 7 averaged about 7.7 million, but this view was a 369% bounce from the NHL normal ABC coverage, and especially the league's regular season ratings. Stable, but here is a way to break out of the pack. Tremendous event, scene shifting to Boston, a great brain trust gathering. Gary Bettman, Bill Daly, and others have put together instead of all-star format, leading to the Olympics, then an all-star game at the new UBS Arena. It is an amazing combination for the NHL. That's number one. Number two, a rival upstart looks to challenge the MLS as the United Soccer League announces their intent to go Division I by 2027. The USL Championship League, 24 clubs. USL League One, 14 clubs. USL announcement also talks about a national women's league that is focusing on taking some luster or compatibility, depending on what you might call it, from the National Women's Soccer League. The idea of generating even more excitement at a value that may be a little lower, maybe they say not value but price, is one that they've been talking about for years. Look at this as a major issue. The expansion to 30 franchises in the MLS this year with the launch of San Diego FC. Yet to make an initial comment? No, MLS has not, but they're certainly focusing on it. That's number two. Number three, crypto in sports. We had a hiatus for a while. The crypto market not well. Independent political leadership. Now we have a new sheriff in town, and Tether announces its stake publicly to buy a significant interest in Juventus. The franchise itself is worth $2 billion, putting it at number 11 among global soccer teams. But the strategic investment in the soccer powerhouse will help the digital assets company become a pioneer in merging new technologies such as global assets, AI, biotech, but obviously focused on crypto. Crypto.com swooped in on the naming rights of the Lakers arena for $700 million in 2022. FTX famously bought the naming rights to the Miami arena for 19 years and $135 million, but Sam Bankman-Fried and the rest of that organization went under, and so did that naming rights. It's now the Kaseya Center. Bottom line is, as long as crypto continues to rebound, you'll see more naming, more purchases, more awareness in the global sports industry. That's number three. Number four, Daytona 500. What a finish. Still kind of understanding how somebody goes from ninth to winning with a half a lap to go, but that's what the Daytona 500 is about. And a crash between Denny Hamlin and Austin Cindric made it a deal where this becomes the fifth driver in history, William Byron, to win back-to-back Daytona 500s. How about his company? Richard Petty, Cale Yarborough, Sterling Marlin, Denny Hamlin. Really, really significant, obviously. the way he won, even more dramatic. But the way NASCAR looks at the Daytona 500, even more dramatic from a business sense. 26 languages, 650 million households, 190 countries, the purse of 30 million, and new higher buttressing revenue TV deals for New Zealand, for Canada, for Japan, for Germany, for Mexico. Obviously, Daytona 500, an amazing success. Now, the rest of the season. And now number 5. Cleveland looks like it's becoming the next 16th WNBA franchise in 2028. The sources put Cleveland's expansion franchise percentage as high as 90%. Gordon Gund owned the first Cleveland team, the Rockers, and then went under because the Cavaliers basically couldn't support them. But now Golden State's 13th league franchise paid $50 million to join, and 14 and 15, Toronto and Portland, paid $115 million, $125 million, respectively. And how about this? The league is trademarking the Detroit Shock, the Houston Comets, the Charlotte Sting, and the Miami Soul to give you kind of an idea that this comeback idea with franchises that didn't make it earlier, but now they're looking at women's sports and they're looking at a better balance sheet, that may work. We'll see how that all turns out. 5 big issues in sports up next. 5 to watch for the next couple of weeks. 1 to 5. Number 1, watch Shaq's new deal with the NBA and TNT. Obviously, the license deal with ESPN allows this to happen, but the extension, at least 5 years, reported by CNBC, but it could be for $15 million. ESPN has the deal produced by TNT, and therefore Kenny Smith and others reportedly signing. We don't know yet about Ernie Johnson. And we heard that Charles Barkley said he's not going to do it, but he's balked before. So that is a big number. And as they say, they may be keeping the old band together. We'll see. That's number 1. Number 2, Live Golf 2023 financials. The tour loses $4 billion, an overall loss of $4 billion in investment. The overall loss is about $395 million. $152 million than the loss from last year, $4.9 million in revenue, about 7 times more than the year before. But the upside is significant. Only $3 million in media rights, and we know the new deals that they've signed, ITV and Fox as well. But here's the bottom line. Saudis investing $4 billion, a drop in the oil bucket. It really may not matter. We'll see what happens long term, obviously merger and otherwise. Number 3, Team Liquid, the Netherlands esports conglomerate, signs Magnus Carlsen. Do we know who he is? Yeah, he's the world chess champion, and now they will have the top 2 chess players in the world signed up with them as they attempt to grow the business of chess. And take a look at it. Esports chess. Who thought it would be a TV event? Maybe not a TV event, but certainly a high demographic, sophisticated sponsor event. So look at that as a big deal in the next few weeks and months ahead. That's number 3. Number 4, global tech firm Arm signs the first sports sponsorship with Aston Martin Formula One, and it's basically AI. Multi-year agreement, the official AI compute platform partner. And get this, surface temperature, air pressure, vertical load, an estimation of grip, wear, graining, and the stuff that is very hard to do. But now AI can do it. The intersection of sports, technology, diversity, and inclusion. And the bottom line of all of this is that it sets the stage for the next AI deal with Formula One and otherwise. That's number 4. And then finally, the NFL and concussions. They credit a 17% drop from the previous year for a couple of things. Number 1, the kickoff rules, and we'll have to see further study. And number 2, the Guardian caps, which were optional and not mandatory. Many players are wearing it. The future of the controversy is 17 games versus 18 games. and also multiple options available for the cap safety. But the talks that they're discussing it, do they make it mandatory or not? Kind of like motorcycle helmets in a way. But yet 4 of the concepts were moved to the not recommended category this season. So as they move forward, everybody needs to weigh in. Remember Steve Strawbridge's interview at the beginning of this. He will be a key player in this debate as well. Well, that's it for our show this week. We'd like to thank Steve Strawbridge and all his help, Tim Glaze and Pop Warner, for helping us set up the interview. It's a really exciting, dynamic organization. I'd like to thank Khaled Kazara, as usual, for putting the show together. I'd like to thank you all for listening, watching, and joining us on The Record, the $1.3 trillion business of sports. See you next week.